Okay, welcome back to the Global Landscapes Forum in Accra 2019. I'm your host, Natasha Elkington, and this morning I have with me Bernhard Worm, who currently works at the section of Rural Development, Land Rights, Forest and Animal Husbandry within the special initiative One World, No Hunger at the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ.
Very good.
Thank you. I got that right, yes? Thank you for joining us.
First challenge.
At least we got that right. Yeah. Thank you. So my first question would be, why is landscape restoration in Africa important for Germany, and especially BMZ, who has committed around 2 billion euros, right, for 200 forest initiatives, which is quite a lot of money.
Landscape restoration is for us integrated in our general forest strategy. We have 3 pillars in the strategy, which is forest protection, landscape or forest restoration, and deforestation-free supply chains.
Okay.
And so within the second chapter or second pillar, we do a lot of activities in forest and landscape restoration, and the Global Landscapes Forum fits very well in this approach because we see that we can basically, it offers the possibility to bring a huge audience together, all the different stakeholders, governments, NGOs, other technical partners, etc. And so for us, it is a very good, together, I have to say, together with the Ministry of Environment, so generally for the German government, it is a good and important approach to promote these the landscape approach. And as you just mentioned, that I work in the special unit One World, No Hunger. We have this special development focus, and we know that 1.6 billion people live in and from and around forests.
Right.
So the living conditions depend highly on forests, and so it is super important. It is extremely important to protect them and to restore. So for us, it is a high priority working on restoration, basically.
Okay, great. And then, so this is the 4th AFR 100 annual meeting that we had a few days ago. Before till today, it's still going on. Okay, it's still going on, right? Aiming to restore 100 million hectares of degraded land in Africa over 28 countries by 2030. So since the first meeting, what progress have you seen in restoration? Or can you share with us, since you're the first annual meeting to now we're at the 4th one?
Yeah.
So what progress have we made in this?
I mean, especially I think we have made progress in the initiative as such,
okay.
in the AFR 100 initiative. So 4 years ago, it was a kind of a new initiative within the umbrella or within the One Challenge globally, no? And so the Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, together with WRI and NEPAD, decided to have a separate initiative for the African continent. And so AFR 100 started. And so we had different annual partnership meetings, and you really see that year by year the initiative is growing. So the name and the brand and the initiative is getting in on the ground, basically on the partner governments. We have all the engaged focal points coming here, discussing, seeing the relevance of forest landscape restoration, or generally restoration, the importance of it, and I think this is already a progress. So that this initiative came into rolling, basically. But and that we have now commitments from 28 countries,
right.
which is good, and we. The original objective is to, as you already said, to restore 100 million hectares by 2030, and now we are already with these 28 countries by at a commitment of 113 million hectares. So it's basically already over the original objective, but I mean it's a commitment. These are commitments, and so the actual challenge is to do it. I mean, to implement and to get the action on the ground, and to
So how far are we in terms of implementation? Is that I know that's not on our question list, but are we far in implementation, or are we on the right track?
I mean, we see basically it's a good question, and of course when you hear like 100 million hectare by 2030, it provokes directly the question, how far are you? But we also argument that it's a kind of also political number, and we say that it is important to get this topic in the minds of the people in the partner countries and start to act towards meeting their restoration goals. And so we will see where do we stand in 5 years, for example, from now on. Some countries making great progress. For example, if I can mention Madagascar. So this is a extremely committed and dedicated FLR team. And they are here, the delegation now for the AFR 100 meeting and for GLF is a big delegation. They already did a kind of South-South exchange with Cameroon. So a delegation from Madagascar, the focal point plus, I guess, 2 people from Madagascar came to Cameroon, discussed with them the FLR concept, consulted, advised them, developing a FLR strategy, and then also Cameroon, a delegation from Cameroon went to Madagascar and saw how they implement FLR successfully. So there are success stories, basically.
Okay, great.
We also see a positive sign in Malawi, for example. The government is very dedicated. There is a great initiative of a youth initiative in Malawi, and the government is supporting with budget even. So a certain amount. I can't now.
The figures, it's okay, but
so the government is supporting this initiative, and it's not international donors, it's not other international implementing agencies, it's the government. So these are the things we need to achieve, that governments put aside in their national budgets something for forest and landscape restoration. Better they do something for protection, forest protection, but we know all these kind of circumstances, so we unfortunately lose a lot of forest and forest-rich landscapes. And when it's there, then it's important that governments have it on their agenda to restore and how to do that.
Great. So I guess we've covered what were the challenges from your first meeting, and you mentioned earlier that 1.6 billion people depend on forests for their livelihoods. How important are the voices and wisdom of indigenous communities with regards to the environment and restoration?
I think this is beside this governmental issue, it's extremely important. That when we plan FLR measures and FLR activities, that they are kind of linked to the people on the landscape level. So this is one side, the local community, but of course the indigenous groups. They live from forests and landscapes since ever, basically. And we need to learn from these groups, I think, and we need to involve them in planning, in monitoring these activities, and I think this is without integrating indigenous groups, it's basically also not possible to implement. And we from BMZ, this year actually we are supporting the FCPF. This is a program at the World Bank, and there we do a program. It's like this year is a program for indigenous people. 20 million. That's what we are doing this year, and also within the Central African Forest Initiative, CAFI, which we are supporting this year also with 30 million euro. We have, it's not exclusively for indigenous people, but indigenous groups are basically integrated in our forest program.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's great news. Wow, so there is progress being made in that section. So, so what more needs to be done in terms of global government policies to ensure forests are protected and lands are restored? What do we need more in order to push this agenda forward? With the little time we have.
I think it is what we saw now here in the discussions yesterday in the AFR 100 meeting. It is important that we see which kind of different initiatives are already on the ground, so that we kind of bundle our expertise, that we identify what we have learned, which success stories we have, what can we tell from them, and how can we improve basically our implementation. I think this is important, that we are getting out of this, also the institutional silos, the initiative silos.
Yeah.
No? So we have and that we join our forces basically and implement towards these different goals which are out there together. I think for the governments it's sometimes not very easy to see what is now AFR 100, and then we have Bond Challenge, and then we have the Great Green Wall of Africa, and then we have different initiatives with different targets. And this, I think we need to, as an international community together, we need to make a joint approach to consolidate also maybe.
Right, exactly. Kind of put them all together so you can...
Exactly.
Because I guess in a way it's like, how do you measure progress? I mean, is there a way that you are developing a strategy to measure this progress, right? Because that would be the way to understand how we're moving.
How exactly?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we want to move, and we use a lot of energy in coordination. It's very important, but if the initiatives were kind of
like connected to each other or something.
Exactly.
Then it would be
much easier, and we could use this energy which we use for this type of coordination into implementation.
Right. Lovely. And the last question is, why do you think like the Global Landscapes Forum is important for for moving this whole climate action agenda forward? Like, do you think these forums, these conferences are important?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we support.
Yes, I know exactly. I know you do.
And we carefully watch what is going on
in
each and every conference, and we see that there is definitely added value because it's a kind of an innovative approach. It's not a regular conference with one side event after the other plenum. It brings in a very different community, basically, like the indigenous people, for example, which what I said before is very important, that they are on board and they are here, and they can get in contact with people from NGOs, from international organizations, and from governments as well. And so I think it's a very it's a positive type of conferencing.
Okay, great. Well, I thank you for your time. That was a really interesting interview that we had, and I've learned a lot.
Okay.
And I thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.